This is a fight for justice. Court decrees a win against the government, but then it remains just that, decrees on paper. My name is Fred Kagonye and the Inside Source starts right now. When Senior Private Hezekiah Ochuka and Senior Sergeant Pancras Oteo Okumu, alongside other military officers from the Air Force, attempted to overthrow the almost 4-year-old rule of the late President Daniel Arap Moi on August 1, 1982, their move failed terribly. Ochuka and Oteo had lied to officers that they had the backing of Uganda, Tanzania, Seychelles, Zimbabwe, and present-day Russia. Part of the plans were made at an Umoja house where several soldiers converged. They took over the Voice of Kenya or VOK to announce that they had taken over the government, and before that, they had sought to bomb GSU headquarters among other installations in order to counter anyone who would come up to oppose their plan. Ochuka led the country for approximately 6 hours.
Time now is 12 minutes past 6. You are hereby informed that everybody is requested to stay at home. There should be no movement in town. The government has now been taken over by the military until further notice.
The late Swale Adhuman Mumina, who was at the Voice of Kenya's Swahili division, was the first journalist to face the 1982 coup plotters. He broke the news that the country was now under military rule before the more than 20 soldiers asked for the whereabouts of Kenya's darling broadcaster Leonard Mambo Mbotela. The soldiers, led by the coup mastermind Hezekiah Ochuka, then drove to Ngara where Mbotela was staying at the time and brought him to the VOK studios to make the follow-up announcements.
Walikuja watu kama 20 bwana. Maaskari kama 20 wale wa Air Force. Tukaingia nao pale. Tukaingia studio kabisa. Sasa akachukua karatasi na kalamu akaandika notes zake pale, akaniambia soma hivi. Ndio nikasoma. Hamjambo wananchi, mimi ni Leonard Mambo Mbotela, hii ni sauti ya Kenya. Na wafahamisha kwamba serikali ya mzee Daniel Arap Moi imepinduliwa, na hapa nilipo niko na bwana Hezekiah Ochuka na viongozi wengine. Kwa hivyo anasema ya kwamba mtulie majumbani, kila mtu akae majumbani, mahabusu wote wafunguliwe na polisi ni raia.
It was not long after Mbotela had made the announcement that the rebels were quickly taken down and he was again sent back to the studio to tell Kenyans that all was well.
General Mahmudi ashafika. Iwa hema kabisa. Kaambia Leonard, kaambia yes sir, get in the studio quick. Wananchi wa Kenya, ni mimi tena yule Leonard Mambo Mbotela. Niliwaambia kwamba serikali mpinduliwa. Nimerudi tena papa hapa kuambia kwamba mambo ni mazuri, mambo ni shwari, msitie wasiwasi, kaeni nyumbani mtulie. Niko naye hapa General Mahmud pamoja na afisa wengine wameshakomboa serikali.
From the records, President Daniel Moi had been informed of the plan to overthrow his administration by both the special branch and military intelligence corps, with some saying he may have allowed it to happen, while others argue he may have downplayed it. Ochuka and Oteo, after their bid failed, fled to Tanzania, where they put up a spirited fight not to be extradited to Kenya, and they won in Tanzanian courts. In November 1983, in a deal between Moi and the then Tanzania President Julius Nyerere, the two were handed over back to Kenya. In 1987, they were court-martialed and hanged. Other soldiers who faced the hangman alongside Ochuka and Okumu are Charles Oriwa Hongo, Fenwix Chesoli Odera, Charles Mirasi Odawa, George Okoth Otila, Robert Odhiambo Ndege, James Odemba Otieno, Joseph Ogidi Obuon, Walter Odira Ojode, Edward Adel Omolo, and Bramwell Injeni Njerimani. In the aftermath, more than 2,000 soldiers were fired from the Air Force, and it was renamed to 82 Air Force, a name that remained until 1984 when it reverted back to Air Force. This opened the door for ex-soldiers to move to court to seek compensation over the way they had been fired from the military. The true number of people who lost their lives is not known, but it is estimated to be in the north of 200. After this coup attempt, President Moi imposed a curfew and made some drastic changes to his administration, which included firing the then police boss, Ben Gedhi. Special Branch got energized and went on its own way to arrest and detain several people who found themselves fighting in the corridors of justice to clear their names from being linked to the failed coup. Among those arrested is current ODM leader Raila Odinga and his father Oginga Odinga, George Anyona, Patrick Ouko, James Dennis, John Keane, Achieng Oneko, Eric Obura, and many others. Some University of Nairobi students were also arrested and charged with treason. Former Attorney General Charles Njau would face a commission that investigated him over the links to the failed coup. David Njau had only been in the Air Force for 10 years when the events of August 1st, 1982 cut short his career in the military. He says that he enjoyed his job and the results thereof were promotions.
I continued with my work and I got promotions because of the ability of my work, and I was promoted into the rank of a corporal. I was given a medal. I have got one medal by the late President Jomo Kenyatta and other two medals by late Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi.
On the material day, he claims that he was at the present-day Moi Air Base where he was playing snooker with fellow airmen, and then everything changed. An air siren went off, meaning the country was under attack from an enemy.
I went to the armory where other soldiers, other airmen were going, but unfortunately did not get one gun. So they were all taken away. So I went back to Sergeant's mess so that I could have any information regarding what was happening.
While at the mess, one of the soldiers present suggested that since they had found out that it was an attempted coup, they should surrender their arms and hoist a white flag, a sign of surrender.
We were surrounded by army soldiers, a group of army soldiers. In fact, they were coming from one step to another and they were armed.
The assumed rebel soldiers would get transferred to the Naivasha GK prison where the mistreatment went on.
That is where we were tortured most because they used to interrogate us. After interrogation, if you don't say what they want you to say, you are taken in an orthodox cell and you are kept there for 3 days, 2 days. When you come out, your legs are white. Then they started doing you first aid. At first, they give you a porridge with a spoon until you recover.
Njau refused to confess to the crime he was being accused of. He says that he was never taken to a court-martial like other officers, and after 6-month detention, he was taken to the Kahawa barracks where he was told to pick clothes from a heap and was given a lift to the CBD where he was verbally told that he had been fired.
Then I was driven to railway station and was given 20 shillings to go home.
After his freedom, since he did not know where his family was, he went to see his sister-in-law who worked in Nairobi's CBD.
When I went at that floor, my sister-in-law fainted when he saw me. And after she recovered, and they went and brought me some clothes. Then my sister-in-law directed me to where my family was. In fact, they were staying at Kagemi. In shanty places.
Another shocker awaited him at home.
My children could not recognize me. Somebody with beers. So they were traumatized until after 2 weeks is when they started getting used to me.
Njau would later find work with the Tana and Athi Rivers Development Agency TARDA. This was after two parastatals rejected his application for work due to his past. He eventually retired from TARDA after 12 years. Njoroge Muigai's story is similar to Njau and many other ex-soldiers. He says on the day of the coup he was in the barracks going about his business, but little did he know that his life would change forever. He traces the bad blood between the Air Force and the Army to the fact that the Air Force employed more educated officers compared to their colleagues in the Army and the Navy.
They were actually very junior officers. The highest was a corporal at that time. I think engineer in Germany. Ochuka was still a senior private. Although Ochuka was an engineer in his own right, he was an E&I engineer. He hadn't gotten any ranks then, but he had managed to put airmen together.
Muigai maintains that there was no coup. It was just an attempt by a small group of officers of the Air Force, and that a majority of the officers did not know about the plot.
There wasn't really a coup. We never sat anywhere and decided that there was going to be a coup, or did we organize? Never. There was people, a small group of people within the Air Force who organized secretly without our knowledge, and we did not support it.
He says that special branch and military intelligence knew about the plot and had informed top people in the security apparatus.
The military intelligence corps had picked that thing, and it actually had been escalated through the system of the Air Force up to the commander's level, and the commander, as Kenya Major General Kariuki, had escalated the same matter to his boss, who was Sawe then. And Sawe had communicated the same to Major General Mulinge, and Mulinge had actually communicated the same to the head of state, who was the Honorable Daniel Arap Moi. They were all aware.
Muigai would find himself among the officers who were arrested and detained at the Committee Maximum Prison before being moved to the Naivasha GK prison. He was eventually taken back to Committee Prison, where he was freed and given 11 shillings to go to his home in Githunguri.
It was terrible being here. We lost all our possessions. We lost all our documents, all our credentials, everything. And remember, we had no ID.
Muigai went on to apply for a position in the US Army, where he was accepted and worked for years.
They told me at the interview time, I volunteered that information because I was afraid they might think I'm hiding. They told me they knew about it, and they had done background check, and those people are thorough. They knew, and they told me not to worry. They know the people who are involved, and they know what happened.
Tony Warokera Kiarie was a young man when the attempt to overthrow President Moi's administration failed. His father, Lawrence Kiarie Warokera, who joined the Air Force in 1969, was at the Ankoroi home in Kajiado County, where they had moved a month earlier.
And I remember on that Sunday morning, on August the 2nd, it was a day when he was not on duty, so we were all seated there having breakfast right outside. And my uncles came from a place called Kikuyu. And they came to ask my dad, "You don't know what is going on? Haven't you not heard what is happening? Have you not heard the radio?" My dad exclaimed, "No, I don't know what is going on."
Mr. Warokera picked another army officer who lived nearby his place, and they drove towards Moi Air Base, but were arrested on their way there and detained at the Langata barracks.
They were manhandled, they were removed from the car violently, they were beaten up.
His family went to the Langata barracks to look for his father.
So my mom went there, and the commanding officer at that time, he told my mom, "We killed your husband. We finished him."
The family would later learn where he had been detained before his dismissal from service. Mr. Warokera would return home, and his life and that of his family was never the same again.
It was very hard. There were times I had to be chased from school because there was no fees. Also my siblings, there was a time they were not able to go through school for a while.
Kiarie says that his father developed cancer, and due to lack of funds, he never got the medical care that he required, and he eventually died in 2014.
Unfortunately, as we were struggling to have Mzee, have treatment, we didn't know our mom also had the same cancer diagnosis. In fact, we knew the diagnosis on the day that my dad died. My mom had to be admitted, and that is when they diagnosed that she had colon cancer.
Kiarie had to take up the battle that the father left in the corridors of justice by attending court sessions and eventually scoring a win that to them remains just a decree on paper.
The sequence of events from the time of my dad being sacked or losing his employment and losing a way of earning a living because of the bad name or the stigma of having to be part of those events, has brought us to a place now we are almost destitute. We are looking for aid.
Part of Kiari's family moved abroad after the death of their parents. Miss Anne Wanjiru Kingaro knows too well the pain suffered by her husband, who was among the officers fired from the Air Force. Captain Kariuki Kingaro was in Wajir, where he had gone as part of his assignment. Mrs. Kingaro was at home alone with their 2 children at the time.
It was on a Saturday night, so we slept kama kawaida. There was peace in the evening. In the morning at 6, I was woken up by one of the soldiers, a friend. He called me early in the morning at 6. Those days we didn't have mobile phones, so it was the landline. And he asked me, Mrs. Kingaro, you are still sleeping? Nikamwambia ndio. Ati things are not good here. Can you switch on the radio? So I switched on my radio, and then I started hearing Mambo Mbotela now announcing that serikali imechukuliwa na jeshi ni raia.
She witnessed firsthand the humiliation her husband's colleagues underwent in the hands of the army when they made their way to the barracks before all civilians were kicked out.
So when we were looking outside, we would see the men in uniform. That's what the court calls them. Kneeling kwa barabara. All of them. We didn't know what was happening.
With uncertainty, she left the barracks to the outskirts of Nanyuki, where a friend had offered refuge. But it was not long before she moved back to Nanyuki's CBD.
We waited from August. We stayed August, September, October, November, December. No news. January, February, no news. From February, that's when they started releasing people. My husband came back in March after 6 months. He came back in March. So all that time, we didn't know what was happening.
When Kingaro was freed from prison, he did not stay long before moving to Nairobi, where he started working as a matatu driver to provide for his family, and later on joined UNEP, which prompted Wanjiru to move to Nairobi together with her children.
So we moved to Nairobi in January 1985 because now he had a job. So we lived in Nairobi all that time. They were told services no longer required, so no benefit. You just go home and start your life. I know some people who never got a job at all. So we lived from 1985. In 1989, that's when he got sick. We stayed from 1989, he passed on 1996.
Before his death, Kingaro and 8 others had filed a case in court in the year 1995 challenging their ouster from the Air Force. His wife took over the case and her chase for justice started.
We had many lawyers. We moved from, some of them used to refuse. They feared the government. So they would say, no, we can't continue with this case.
For these families, it's been an elusive search for justice. Even despite warrants of arrest being issued against the current PS Defense Patrick Mariro over his failure to pay them, with the Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja also being sacked in this for his failure to arrest Mariro and present him to court, nothing seems to be moving.
So all that time, nobody has listened to us.
This justice is delayed, then it should be expedited as soon as possible, if it should be.
Why can't he arrest Honorable Mariro and present to court before Justice Chigiti here and is alive? Yeah, and actually you can cross-check that order. It's there. Kenyans.
Why the PS Minister of Defense is disobeying a court order.
Lawyer Mbugwa Mureithi, who has represented over 100 ex-soldiers, says he has obtained 3 mandamus orders compelling the government to pay his clients and 2 warrants of arrest against current PS Defense Patrick Mariro.
As we speak, the PS has not addressed the issue. The PS is essentially a fugitive from the law because he doesn't turn up in court and there are warrants for his arrest and he doesn't address the issue at all. That money, we are meant to understand, was in fact remitted to the Ministry of Defense, but we have never received it. Where they took the money, we do not know.
These are some of the cases that were filed in court and the different awards. David Njau and 9 others versus the AG were awarded 80 million shillings in 2012. Gerald Juma and 9 others versus the AG were awarded about 20 million shillings in 2012. Former General of the Air Force Peter Kariuki versus the AG was awarded 38 million shillings in 2012. The estate of Captain Kingaro and 8 others versus the AG were awarded about 72 million shillings in 2008. In another case, 284 petitioners had their ranks restored and court directed their salaries and benefits to be paid in full plus 1 million shillings as damages back in 2012. Peter Mauko and 4 others versus the AG were awarded 15.5 million shillings in 2014, and Musa Mabwanga and 9 others versus the AG and the Chief of Defense Forces were awarded 62 million shillings in 2015. All the awards were to earn interest at 12% annually, meaning the awards have since almost doubled. In the meantime, for the families left waiting, time has stretched into years. Promises have fast faded into mirage, but even so, they refuse to surrender to despair, keeping hope alive that one day, justice long delayed will finally arrive at their doorsteps. Fred Kagonye, for the Inside Source, KTN.